My name is Seugnet Bronkhorst and I'm from the University of Johannesburg. This study was done by one of my students, Luka de Wet, and we look specifically at the work-life balance of employees, staff working remotely as a result of COVID-19. What we've discovered, I just want to take this one out because it's now in my way. What we looked at, the aim of the study was to determine the emphasis of virtual organizations that absolutely increased during the transformation of COVID. As a result of restrictions and regulations, as we all know, virtual organizations offered many advantages in relation to the work-life balance of employees. Or did it allow balancing work and personal commitments to actually take the down or the second step? The employees working from home found themselves in a workspace that was also their leisure space, according to Goodman in 2021. And they've adapted to this way of work to such an extent that people in South Africa, they don't want to go back to work. We found that people actually want to stay at home. They don't want to go back to the work environment. It also becomes actually very relevant that the employees couldn't separate their work-life balance in an environment where they are intertwined. The clear boundaries were not really established. And this may result in employees experiencing difficulties in relation to knowing when to stop work, which leads to longer hours and greater work-related stress. Very much what the first keynote speaker also said of this session, in this session. So our problem statement is due to the COVID pandemic, no, these are in my way again, I just want to move it away. Due to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the motor and companies no longer really exist. As a result, employees are now feeling free to work from a location of their choice. This freedom of choice comes with an unclear distinction between what are the balance between my work life and my personal life. How long am I going to be online? Until what time will you expect from me to answer emails? In South Africa, we've got a timeline that's totally different from wherever we are in the world. In the United States, in California, we are 10 hours time difference. Australia, from here, we are 9 hours time difference. So the time difference, how long do you expect from us to be available? Therefore, the problem statement can be identified as determining the work-life balance of employees due to virtual organizations. What is happening in the virtual organizations? Our research objective was to determine how the work-life balance of employees due to COVID regulations were influenced, with all our various secondary objectives. Absolutely new virtual organizations were established. Never have we seen these virtual organizations. We've seen the normal virtual organizations, the virtual projects as discussed in the keynote speaker. But this is a new type of virtual organization. And what is this new office setting in a home setting virtual organization? How productive is it in comparison with a brick and mortar organization? Is it as comparison? How does it compare? When we look at the definition of a virtual organization, according to Chum, Seaton, and Cook, the authors agree that virtual organizations are entities that are established for a limited period of time, wherein the participants of that organization are usually geographically distributed. As Alamal and Ishmael refers to a virtual organization as being a permanent or temporary collection, also referring to geographically dispersed individuals, groups, or organizational units. So all of a sudden, we have now identified a new organization. They are not geographically dispersed, and they are reliant on technology and ICT. We also find certain aspects such as the borders and boundaries of virtual organizations being very vague. Where do we stop and where does the new virtual organization start? You find that in big organizations, even at our university, we have meetings scheduled back to back. You don't take into consideration the 5-minute break or the 10-minute break, comfort break that you need, because the person is in front of his computer, his or her computer. So we can just as well carry on with the next meeting. Whereas in the normal situation, you would have had an hour or half an hour time to get from the one venue to the next. The organizational structure of our virtual organizations is generally horizontal and flexible within the organizational structure. It also decreases the hierarchical organizational structure known as vertical structure that occurs in traditional organizations. So when we look at the flexibility of these virtual organizations, we found that there's an influence on the productivity and the employee commitment. People tend to be more productive. Just after COVID started, people were more productive. And then, according to our sources, there was a drop in the productivity of the employees. But yet, as it started in middle of this year, 2021, there was once again an influence in the productivity of the employees. I must include here that in South Africa, we've got an extremely high unemployment figure. Our real unemployment figure is 37%. That is, in other words, close to 4 people out of every 10 is unemployed. Our youth unemployment rate is 78%. So our students leaving the university and our school leavers are absolutely unemployed. And this also influences the employee commitment to the organization where they are employed. Ultimately, it reduces stress, and I'm going to show you now, and it also provides more flexibility because you can do something else while you are in a meeting. You can also you don't need to dress up, you don't need to go somewhere. You have a more flexible schedule and greater comfort. You also save on travel expenses. In South Africa, we all travel by car or by taxi or by driving together I can't remember the word. But anyway, we use vehicles to get to work. And this automatically saves us on travel expenses. So our research paradigm is a positivism. Our nature of our research is qualitative, and we are using descriptive research design. In terms of the research, we are looking at the COVID-19 pandemic on working citizens, as is the work balance that has been severely impacted. With companies strategically provided the employees with technology, millions of people were exposed to telecommunicating as a means of access to a virtual working environment. I'm also going to place you in the South African situation. We have a first, second, and third world situation in South Africa, as you know. And the people who are working and were then faced with a situation of working from home did not have the same access to the in-home or stay home or home office situation as people from the first world country, first world environment. So our households in our more affluent areas consist of approximately 2 to 4 people per household. In our lower areas, households can consist of 11 to 13 people. So it does become very difficult for those people to really work in an environment and supply what is expected from them and apply their productivity. So the employees were able to alter the way they use the technology with relative ease. We all received access to internet. We all received access to our telecommunication network, but the majority of the employees were not less efficient in their personal productivity. There was also no decrease on the team performance due to the familiarity with the inner workings of the technology. people were actually really enhanced in how to use the employee. And this was new studies that was done in South Africa by Sherling and Lind in 2020. Our parents also took on the roles of teachers during this, and this forced to compromise one role for another, which can also create further conflict and stress on the household, because now you have to be a teacher as well as work. And this must all happen within the 8 hours as is expected from you. And many people didn't only have one child, or do not only have one child, but more than one, or 3, 4 children that they have to look after and that they have to home teach now, or homeschool. This contribution also outlines that the existing literature continuously indicates the ability that virtual work either reduce or exacerbate the stress of the employee. For example, for me who do not have children at home, it reduced the stress because I can now work from home. It's easier, I don't need to travel. But somebody who do have 3 children at home, all on primary school level, and you have to take over the role of the teacher, that really exacerbates the stress of the employee. The overall literature seems to point towards the understanding that the working virtually during the COVID provided more positivity for the majority of the employees. It also indicated that the work balance of the employees increased during this time. We also find in the literature that it's outlined the fact that the working virtually during the pandemic led to a 13% increase in the work performance, according to Dockery and Bawa. And Putri and Amran also said that the work has the potential to negatively impact if it's not carried out correct. So we have a positive and a negative situation. You have to then decide which one are you going to enhance and how you are going to look at it. The benefits were more time is spent with your families, saving on commuting time, which affords the opportunity to devote more time to other family activities as well as productive activities. We have to note that this in itself created benefits such as virtual employees incur direct financial savings due to the lack of commuting. And we found in South Africa that our monetary economy is absolutely in dire straits. So this did also add to the financial difficulties that the employees are suffering. The advantages were that the people were allowed more time to spend on non-work related activities because you are not traveling. For example, where I stay and to travel to the university takes me in the morning around about an hour and a half to work, and in the afternoon back an hour and a half. So I'm saving 3 hours of traveling time by working from home. A greater discretion in deciding the times that they worked as well as the pace at which they wanted to work, depending on your output. If the company is output driven, then it also became easier for us. However, the challenges or the drastic shift to work virtually had occurred at an anxiety-provoking time. People were not sure what was going on in the pandemic. I looked at the figures just now before I started this paper. In South Africa, we only have 25% of the population that's completely vaccinated. Approximately 30% of our population is vaccinated. Our figures, the latest infections for yesterday was just under 20,000 people. So COVID is still rifing in South Africa, and we are in the summer, during the summer holidays. So during the winter, it is going to be worse. Comparing with what is happening in Africa, 40% of the people in Africa is only pro-vaccinations. The people in Africa do not want vaccinations. There are various cultural and religious reasons why they don't want to be vaccinated. I said that before. So I also saw that the United States...
I'm very sorry, but if you can start, try to wrap up because we're really running out of time. I'm very sorry.
That's fine. Then recommended is that we have to look at research conducting willingness of companies to initiate work at a central geographical working environment where people can then go back to the environment. And that's all that I wanted to say.